Here we are for another video. I'm tired, it's hot. There's no central AC anywhere you rent in Washington State. It is too hot right now. I had the fan on previously before shooting and I'm still like dying right now. If you're not here for the musty dusty eyeshadow, if you're not here for the ponytail or the Lindsay crop top, sorry, see you next week. It's fine. I don't care. I don't judge. Like, I feel it. So this week we're gonna do a story time. I know it's kind of cliche and a little bit played out, but I'm drawing, I'm coloring, so that's different. So this story time, as you can tell by the title, is about when I went out with a girl and found out that she had a boyfriend. Well, basically, this took place when I was 17 years old. It was the Thanksgiving or maybe winter break. I think Thanksgiving break of my first year in college. College was an experience. I only went for a year, so I actually am going back now, but this was around the time that Tinder was kind of big and people were just all over Tinder. Tinder was the thing to do. It was the new dating app. It was just, you needed to be on Tinder if you were cool, which I was not, but I still wanted to be on Tinder. And I was a gaby. I was newly out. Within that last year, I was newly out. I had no experience with girls. I didn't know much about them at all as far as dating went, other than being one sometimes. But I actually did match with quite a few girls. I feel like a decent amount, I matched with. I matched with one particular girl. We will call her Stacy. So Stacy was a kind of feminine, but not too feminine girl. Like, she could pass for bi, but if she told you she was straight, you would have no doubts. She had this pixie short hair and she wore makeup and she was very thin, probably an inch shorter than me. We were the same level of ugly. But I don't know. Attractiveness, that's the word I'm looking for. We were on the same level of attractiveness, I would say. Like, I don't think she was particularly more beautiful than I was. I don't feel like, I'm not cocky, but like, I don't think that I was much more attractive than she was. So we were on the same level. It was like a good playing field. I think I messaged her first and I told her she was cute and I was like, oh, like, tell me about yourself. And, we go through the formalities of, Tinder introductions. Eventually I give her my Snapchat and we start snapping and we get to know each other a little bit off the snap. But there came a point where I would send her like, what do you like to do for fun? And I would get a picture. And I was like, oh, that's okay. Okay. It wasn't like a full frontal. It wasn't like super exposure. It was definitely like a little something something. You know what I'm saying? I don't even remember how I reacted. Like, I think I played it off pretty well. I think I kind of like laughed with it and I was like, oh, haha, cool. Like, I don't even remember how I reacted. But I would ask her like a question. I would be like, oh, do you like sushi? And she would be like, yes. And I would be like, what's your favorite color? And she'd be like, blue. It pisses me off because this was definitely a red flag and it was just like, I just did not see it. I was blinded by the blue. I did not see it and I really should have thought about why a girl would be sending me these kind of pictures so soon. Literally just gave her my Snapchat, like, So I didn't think about it, red flag missed, and I was like, oh, hey, like, can I take you on a date sometime? Maybe we could go ice skating. And that's how I remember that it was indeed winter or fall break, because I did ask her if we could go ice skating. And she was like, yeah, definitely this week, like, let's do that. And I said, great. So we exchanged phone numbers, and over the next few days, we would talk here and there. Hey, what are you up to? Oh, not much. I'm going to, oh, she went to cosmetology school. So before we could hit that date that I had asked her on, one day she asked me, hey, what are you up to? And I was like, oh, not much. I'm getting a tattoo right now from my tattoo artist. And later tonight I'm going to a party, my friend's birthday party. And she's like, oh, cool. And I think there was something going on at home. I was 17 and she was 20 at the time. And she was still living with her parents. And she was like, oh, can I tag along? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Mind you, I went all the way from the west side of town to the east side of town to pick her ass up. And that's a good 30-minute drive. And that's gas on a 17-year-old salary. What was I making? $7.50 an hour, like minimum wage? Girl. I went and picked her up, and I think it was too early to go to my friend's party, so we ended up going to Krispy Kreme. And actually, from what I remember, it was actually a pretty enjoyable experience. When we went to Krispy Kreme, like we got a couple coffees, couple donuts, and we laughed, and it was a good time. She was wearing like this skirt, like, or maybe a dress, like it was floral, and I was wearing shorts because I got a tattoo on my leg, and I was wearing like a graphic tee, and I was wearing a snapback. I guess I was more of the studly one at the moment, but not by too much. Like, honestly, we were both pretty feminine that day. Like, I always wear makeup, so it's about time to pull up to my friend's party, so we do, and right off the bat, I actually see people from high school, and it was really awkward for me because I hadn't seen these people since I was straight. This was the first time that people from high school were seeing me with a girl. I start getting asked questions. Oh, so are you gay now? Like, you're with girls? Are you bi? What's the deal? I'm just trying to enjoy a date, so it's really none of your business. I'm like, damn, don't you have girls of your own? Oh, wait, you don't. So we were playing beer pong, and she would get like, oh my god, and we would like hit the shot. She'd be like, oh yay, and she was like definitely like touchy-feely, like hugging me, and she would like lean into me and hold my hand, which I didn't mind. It was fine. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. Especially on the first date, I didn't think that she would be so touchy, but maybe that's just another red flag that I did miss. I don't know. Obviously, there's music at this party, so we go to dance, and she's getting even more touchy, and she's like, oh, hey, can we go pick up some cigarettes? And I'm like, ugh. So I take her to the store real quick, and I grab like a water or something, and when we get back, we sit on like a porch swing type thing, and my friend's girlfriend comes up to us, and she's like, oh, you guys are so cute, and she noticeably like gets all like, she like leans into me, and then she like kisses me on the cheek. I'll say something, and she like kisses me on the cheek, and then I'm talking to people over here, and then like I feel like kissing my cheek, and like, you know, we're doing this, and she's just like getting closer and closer and closer, and then finally she kisses me, but then she like kisses me, and I'm like, what the, and like she's like kissing me, and I'm like, damn, like already, like this is the first date and you're like kissing me like this. That was a red flag for me. I don't know, a lot of people sleep together on the first date, so maybe it's not that big of a red flag, but for me, like, I didn't feel like it was gonna go that route, and suddenly it did. So it's the end of the party, and she asked me to take her home. I'm like, cool, I'll take you home. So I drive her all the way again to the east side. And I'm like, okay, let me walk you to your door. And she's like, no, like my parents are asleep. It's cool. And I'm like, no, like, you know, I'm not going to come in. I just want to walk you to your door. I just want you to be safe. She insisted that I didn't. I'm like, all right. So I let her walk herself to her door and make sure she gets in safe. Bada bing, bada boom, she's in. Ew, that was ugly. Bada bing, bada boom. Who do I think I am? Is it not Italian? Let me just collect myself for a moment. I'm just gonna color this leaf for a moment because that was unacceptable. So the next morning, me and my friend go out for breakfast, and they're like, oh, how did it go? And I tell them about it. I'm like, oh, went good. Like, I think I really like her. She was really sweet. We're gonna go out on another date sometime. And they're like, cool. Like, what's her name? And I'm like, oh, it's Stacy, whatever. Because you have their last name from their Tinder, and their Tinder's connected to their Facebook, so it's gotta be legit, right? I had done my research a little bit. Like, I went on Facebook, but it was a very private profile, so I wasn't able to really look at her profile too much. All I saw was that she was in cosmetology school, she was living in El Paso, she had a couple pictures up. That was really all that I was able to see publicly, and I didn't want to be too much of a creep, so I just let it go. My friend, on the other hand, had no problem being a creep. And so they look her up on all kinds of social media. Bam! First thing that happens, they're like, she has a boyfriend. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, she doesn't have a boyfriend. I mean, she's bi, like, she dates guys, but she doesn't have a boyfriend. Like, you gotta be wrong. And they're like, no, seriously, look. And they show me their phone, and I'm like, first picture is her little selfie moment. And the second picture is this, like, big white guy, and it's, like, a caption where it's like, oh, my baby, or my love, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just know, definitely boyfriend. And he was tagged. He was tagged in there. And I go look at his profile, and in his bio is her name. And I'm like, bet. I'm sitting there and I'm feeling ballsy in IHOP or Denny's or wherever we were. I bet she was a Village Inn. I'm feeling ballsy in Village Inn, and I'm like, bet, I'm gonna text her. My friend is sitting with me in front of me, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, nothing. All smiley faces, all smiley emojis, a couple hearts, maybe a kissy. This whole time she's texting me, it's just all smiles. What are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm just going with my mom to work. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm chilling with my friend at breakfast. I'm like, what does your mom do for work? Typical question to ask, right? I mean, if you're gonna date someone, you should know what their parents do. She has no problem telling me what her mom does. I don't remember. I don't really care what her mom does. Like, fuck you, Carol, for making such a little hoe daughter. Like, that's rude. So I don't know what her mom does, but she texts me, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What does your boyfriend do? She sends me just a text back, military, period. No denial, no pushback, no nothing. Like, you're not gonna argue the point with me. You're not gonna pretend like you don't have a boyfriend, like nothing. I'm like, damn, at least she's upfront about it. I'm like, cool. You don't understand. He's very open. He doesn't care if I date girls. It's not like that. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not like that? Like, we go back and forth about it for a minute. How do you figure that your man isn't gonna care that some girl is booing up your boo? If your man doesn't care that you're dating a girl, why don't I just go ahead and hit him up on Instagram and find out? Is that what he's gonna tell me, that he doesn't care? She flipped the script so fast, she's like, F you, F everything you're about. I don't give a F about you. You were just a side bitch. And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? And she sends me like this whole thing about, she was like, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. She's like, why don't you go ahead and message him then and ruin my life? Go ahead and ruin my relationship by messaging him on Instagram. I don't care. Dude, I'm not that type of girl. Like, I'm not here to ruin your relationship. I'm just letting you know that you messed up. Like, that is messed up and you don't do that to people. I'm not too invested in this, so I'm not about to cry about it. I hope you don't go and do this to somebody else in the future. And she's like, if you're not gonna tell him, then leave me alone and blah, blah, blah. What do you mean leave you alone? You leave me alone. I'm like, damn, you over here getting mad at me for calling you out about having a man, but you trying to play me? I don't think so. It was just super rude, and I had no words. She wasn't that cute. So a couple months later, my friend, the one who found them on Instagram, they were like, oh, by the way, I went to sushi and I saw her. It just bothers you that, like, she's sitting there enjoying her goddamn rainbow roll and her spicy tuna roll. This poor fool has no idea that she's out here on Tinder living it up, living the single lifestyle, experimenting with all these poor gabies like me, and he has no clue, but he's still in there. And I'm like, but you know what? That is none of my business. That is none of my damn business, and I'm gonna leave it be. The last time I ever heard about her was actually maybe 6 months later. It was a long time later. We went to this country club in El Paso, and my friends are like, oh, drinks. People are buying me drinks, and I'm like, cool, and I get pretty intoxicated. I can't find my friends anywhere. I'm like, I gotta dance to this song. And there are these like cubes that you can get on top of, and a lot of people do, and you dance, and you can get up there with strangers like nobody cares. And I get up, and this girl helps pull me up. It was like a moon coming out of the eclipse. Like, my hands moved from the view of her face, and I'm like, it was her. She was like, oh, and I was like, and I'm drunk, and I'm like, I know I was missing steps. It was like a line dance, and it was one of those, like, you cannot mess the steps. You cannot mess up the steps. And if you do, like, you're drunk, go home. She got down in the middle of the song, and I was like, the cube's all mine now. I just enjoyed the rest of my night. And I did not see her for the rest of the night, and I'm glad I never did. I really hope that that fool found out that she was being a little hoe behind his back. I really hope that he found somebody. I hope that he went and collected BAH from her at least. Like, if he had to stay with her, at least I hope he's getting BAH and living it up in some cute little apartment and, you know, ranking up until he divorces her and has to fight for custody and gets a nice golden retriever to be his hiking buddy. Like, I wish the best for that man. So I think that's the end for story time today. It is hot as hell. I am in an enclosed room with these soft boxes. I'm sorry if you're not here for the highlight of sweat. I'll see you next week. Oh, I didn't even show you my coloring. Baby! Come here! Mi vida! Hi. Are you mad at me?
No, okay.
We're telling that story. I know you don't. I love you.